Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Phegan Digital. It's where you'll find our revolutionary blueprint course. There's only one place that you can go from zero to hero over a weekend by watching the incredible blueprint. It's everything you'll need to be that $1 million agent. Prospecting, listing, negotiation, and growth. Broken up into short 15-minute pieces, skip to the content you need now or watch from the beginning to end. Only on Phegan Digital.
Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, today we're going to go and talk about working with co-agents. And this is a really interesting one because sometimes inside of your business, you're going to get called in by another agent that actually gets to work in your own business. And they're going to say, hey, Alex, can you come on this particular campaign? You're also going to have some situations where you might have an external co-agent where ultimately you're going to have to list with a rival firm. Alex, what are some of the things, the go-rights and the go-wrongs that actually happens when working with an internal team member and also to working with an external agent who maybe works with a competitor?
Yeah, hi, Josh. It's really important from the outset that you actually set the parameters on how it's going to work and have a plan and have a united front to the vendor. So I think what's super important is one, like probably 95% of agents within or outside our business in the eastern suburbs that we can work with. There's very few that we wouldn't, and you just don't work with them. But the ones that you work with, you ensure that when you put a plan together, that what we like to do is actually sit down with that agent on our own. So, okay, this is what we would normally do with other conjunction agents. What are your thoughts? We do REA, you do domain, signboard, you can do the print, whatever it may be. But also make sure you've got the exact same dialogue around price guide while the vendor's selling, urgency, when it's going to be sold and processed. And then so when you do sit down in front of the vendor, it looks like one team. That's really important, that it feels like it's an advantage for the vendors because they've got two lead agents from two different brands, two different databases. It's going to drive more buyers through the door. So it's important that you if there's some cracks that appear, the vendor is going to pick it up very quickly. And sometimes a vendor will actually get rid of one of the agents. I've seen that actually happen in the past where they just get rid of the weaker agent or the agent that they feel like is not working as well on the property. So you've got to both make sure that you set the lay of the land for for that campaign from the outset. But internally it's the same thing. But internally, there's different splits that happen, like who's getting what. How does that happen? And all that needs to be done up front. It needs to be done before it launches. So everyone knows exactly what playing field that they're working on.
What I often say to a lot of developing agents is that if you're about to walk into a listing presentation and you think that you need to take a senior with you, then you need to take the best person on ground. So if you're like a 23-year-old agent and all of a sudden you're going to go and see someone who's a retiree at 70 and you've got someone in the business who's maybe 50 years old, and that's the right style of person to take to that particular listing presentation to make sure that you can win. Alex, how important is it to team up with the right person to actually win the listing presentation? So if you are dealing with an older client and you're a bit of a younger agent, to take maybe an older person inside of the business to make sure that they can relate and connect with their particular circumstance.
Yeah, it's actually understanding that from the outset. And that's I think the problem is egos for agents and them thinking that, okay, this is a big listing and I can get this. Is many reasons why they probably would lose a listing, and that they're better off. Most of the properties that we sell or we list with other agents in our office, we just go in there, help them list it, and they take the full commission. There's some where there's a few where we get more involved, and there's a commission structure. But I think that young agent, one, they're going to learn from that lead agent, have the understanding of what if there is a cut on the commission, what the involvement would be, because a vendor also needs to know that, because if you list it and all of a sudden that lead agent is no longer around, that can tarnish a relationship. So it's really understanding the ins and outs of it from the outset to make sure that the vendor's happy and you're going to get a result.
And I think this is really important as an agent. If you're walking into a deceased estate situation and you've never sold a deceased estate before, having a co-agent in your team who has sold a deceased estate before, they actually know some of the things to be able to work around. So the probate and the conversations and what we do with beneficiaries and executors. If you're walking into someone who's moving into a retirement home, again, having someone that can demonstrate and build empathy, that's a really important skill set. Then your job is to then start to think about, well, hang on a second, what's the age profile and demographic of the audience that I'm walking into, and how do I make sure that I've got something similar inside of my sales team? So this is why there's a lot of benefit to actually having that. And, we've got a client, for example, who specializes in helping people to move into retirement homes. And, she's in her early 60s and really connects with that because she's recently done that with her own parents. That ability, I wouldn't have had that level of empathy at 20 years old walking into a listing lounge room. So the skill set is to make sure that ultimately you never lose a listing. You actually position yourself with exactly the right team, male, female, 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 male, male, whatever is appropriate, to allow yourself that position so that ultimately you can go and win that particular business. And that ability to be able to empathetically connect is actually what leads to higher fees and better quality marketing.